I'm sitting here trying to watch a thunderstorm roll in, and it's thundering, and I'm looking at the mountain, watching the clouds roll over, and it kind of seems like they have parted ways and are moving other directions. But I'm not confident enough in the change in weather pattern to go for a walk, so hopefully it comes my direction. Summer thunderstorms were always one of my favorite things growing up, and now I'm in Thailand and it's the rainy season, so there are lots of thunderstorms and it's really peaceful. Everyone's working on construction before the rain comes. It's kind of funny watching. Recently, I've been thinking about how life turns out differently than the way we expect. There have been a lot of things in the past few weeks, few months, few years, but especially the past few weeks that have just not looked how I thought they were going to look. And I think it's really easy to make assumptions about a situation based on what they look like in comparison to what you were expecting them to look like. This morning I was reading John 5, where Jesus goes to this pool of water that is stirred by an angel, and when it's stirred, it has healing power, and whoever gets there first is healed. And so there's this man there, and he had been like paralyzed or crippled for 38 years. Jesus walks up to him, and the man answers with like an explanation of like, I'm here and I can't get down to the pool because no one's around to help me, and if I could get down to the pool I could get healed, and I can't. And it really struck me that like this man had expectations about how he was going to be healed, and they were for a good reason. You know, like he had watched other people get healed, and he was sitting on this mat and obviously was expecting that he could be healed if he just got to the pool when it was stirred. So then when Jesus walked up and healed this guy, you know, he said, rise, take your mat and walk. That was like miraculous provision. Jesus miraculously healed this man, and it was not what he was expecting. Like, he was expecting miraculous healing because honestly, being healed by waters that are stirred by an angel and rushing to them and being the first one to get in the water and to have that be healing, like, that is pretty miraculous. But it wasn't that like he wasn't expecting miraculous healing. It's like he was expecting to be healed in a certain way, and I feel like sometimes we expect things to happen in a certain way, and so we're not considering that it might happen differently, and the way it happens differently might be better. Like, how often do I let what I'm expecting to happen gauge if like it's good or bad? How often do my expectations narrow my lens for what's going on around me and for what God's doing? Because expectations are something that we create in our heads, or else someone gives to us, or we see something happen to other people and we put that as like a framework in our mind. And expectations are within us, you know, they're within our minds, within our creative selves. We create them, or we adopt them, even if someone else creates them. And that's really limiting, because God is a big God and everything is within his power. And so as I was reading the story about this man next to the pool, I was thinking about like how limited are my expectations for how things are going to work out in comparison to like all of the options that God has at his fingertips to work things out, you know, and God is the one making the plan. And so who am I to decide that things are going badly or things are going wrong when I am walking in obedience and things aren't turning out the way that I thought they would, or they don't look like the way that I thought they would? Recently, someone reminded me that when things don't turn out a certain way, that doesn't mean that it's a failure. That can be a rerouting. Rerouting is something that is uncomfortable and not fun, and honestly like defies our expectations. Like it switches them. It goes against what we think we want, where we think we're going, what we think we need. And how many times does God use that, like, to give us so much grace, to just put us on the path and in the way that he has for us, instead of the narrow little view that we have for ourselves of what we think we want. This thunderstorm is coming in. Finally. It rolled off the mountain and it's coming. So I just want to take a few minutes and encourage anyone who is also in a season of life or a moment of life or a situation where the things that you have been expecting to happen, and maybe even God has told you would happen or has promised to happen, haven't happened yet, and your expectations feel failed or unmet, or just like exploded into many little pieces in front of your face. Even though it doesn't feel good, that doesn't mean it's bad. Whatever you're waiting on, whatever place in your life feels lacking, wherever you feel stuck, whatever situation you're looking at where you think this cannot be the right way to go, I just want to encourage you that God uses rerouting to get you where he wants you and where he needs you. And a lot of the times that rerouting feels like your expectations for what you want or were expecting to see don't happen. No matter where you are, God can still use it. Even if you cannot see how it's going to work out and how God is going to make it all happen and how things are going to come together, and even if you're trying to figure out what your part is, like what you need to do in order for things to happen, because it's not just about God showing up, it is about God showing up, but it's also about like what is your part in doing the work in order to make sure that you're in a place where you're ready or you're using what God gave you. But whatever it is, wherever you're at, you are not lost. You are not a lost cause. You're not behind. Even if things don't look the way you thought they would, I really encourage you to take a step back and reconsider what you're looking at. Ask yourself if there is a situation that God is using to reroute you, and also to just take account of what you have and be grateful, because I think often when our expectations are unmet, it's easy to fixate on what didn't go right or what you don't have or what hasn't happened yet. And oftentimes you have a lot more of what you wanted than you think you do. Just because it doesn't look the same way you thought it would, or just because you were expecting something to come with it, it's easy to write everything off and ignore it. I think gratitude is a really strong force and really important, and a way to highlight what you do have, because you don't have nothing. You don't have nothing. You never have nothing. and there is always things to be grateful for, and you are a lot closer than you think. This storm is just teasing me. It's teasing me. It is so close, and it's not here yet. Whatever situation that you're in where you feel disappointed, don't let your disappointment define the situation, because disappointment is valid, but it's not the driving force behind your life. God is a good God who loves each and every one of us passionately. By remembering that and also trusting that and remembering the sacrifice of sending Jesus to live a perfect life and die on the cross and then be resurrected in order to pay for our sins, like that God does not give you a stone when you ask for bread. And that is really hard to feel as truth when you are sitting in a situation where it feels like you got a stone instead of bread. But if you're sitting in a situation like that, that just means that God isn't done yet, because he's not going to leave you with a stone. He's not. And that is where faith comes in, to trust that God is going to show up and God is going to finish what he started and God is going to fulfill the promises that he gave you. And your part to play is not the part of making it all come together, because you're not God. Your part to play is having faith and having trust and having hope, even when you have absolutely no idea how things are going to come together, even though it's really easy to logically decide how things should be or logically come up with a sequence of events that should happen to get you somewhere, or, you know, logically decide what things should look like based on very real things, like how life has looked, or like what you're looking at, or where you want to be, or where you want to go. You know, certain things look a certain way, and it's easy to like rationalize why your expectations are what they are. Expectations are not bad, but they're also not a complete picture. Expectations are not promised. I just challenge you to set aside your expectations and consider what you're grateful for, and look at what you have from a different angle. And also, don't be discouraged and decide that if you don't have something by now, you're not going to get it and God's not going to give it to you, because, I mean, unless he said that, he didn't say that. So don't let your expectations, don't decide that you failed because your expectations are unmet, because it's not over until it's over, and your God is a good God. There is still good in situations that don't look like what you thought they were going to look like. And if you think about how expectations are what we create in our own minds, being rerouted and having things look differently can lead to better things that you never saw coming. They lead to places that we didn't see in our minds and that we didn't think about before and we didn't consider, or we did, but we thought that they weren't what we wanted. Ultimately, God has a good plan, and by being obedient and trusting him and letting him lead you and having the faith to follow him and not getting fed up with the timeline and the calendar and the way things look, you know, you will be led into a beautiful life of purpose by an intentional God. God is an intentional God, and he's not going to leave you hanging, and he's not going to leave you struggling, and no storm lasts forever. Although I think this one that I've been waiting for is finally starting. So this week, choose hope, choose trust, choose faith. And it's okay to have expectations, but don't let your expectations derail you. And don't let them decide what's good and what's bad, because you never know what God is going to use or what way God is going to show up to solve your situation and guide you to where He wants you to be. And here comes the rain. Until next time.